morning. I'm a little tired. I was up early yesterday watching the latest episode of Game of Thrones. Anyone see it? Tell you what, that time has not been kind to Daenerys Targaryen. Well, thank you for coming, and we'll start off with that. Let's start off with, you know, for once, no rockets are fired off this morning. But when they do we know why? Why? Why are they firing rockets? Is it just to annoy us, scare our pets, give us something to argue on Facebook? Sometimes it's a mystery, but usually, I say usually, there's a reason. There's a particular celebration. Yeah, sometimes we can find that celebration, sometimes we can't. Did you hear them? Oh, first of all, have you got your pictures? Yeah? If you swipe to number 1, did you hear them on last Wednesday, May 3rd? Yes, lots of rockets. Anyone know what celebration that was? Day of the Cross, Dia de la Cruz. And it's a very popular celebration, especially in Ajijic. It's not unique to Ajijic. And Day of the Cross will see construction workers putting crosses on top of the buildings. In fact, there's one right opposite the banner of Dieciséis, right in front of LCS. There's a cross decorated up there, and the construction workers put crepe paper and they're decorated with flowers, etc. And they asked the Holy Cross for protection against accidents and falls on the job, because they don't believe in rules and regulations. So given their adherence to those rules, it's not surprising. Every little bit helps. So it's basically a party for the workers. The beer will flow. The bosses are usually, the owners of the property are usually responsible for bringing in the alcohol and the food, and the beer will flow, and yes, rockets will be launched. Now, stories like this were told to me by my good friend and neighbor, Eduardo Ramos Cordero. Everyone knows him in the village as Lalo. If you walk from one end of the village to the other, or just across the plaza, it'll take you about 45 minutes, because he knows everyone knows Lalo. He has to greet everyone greets him. And Lalo has helped me compile a list of local traditions that we may not be aware of. We may see things, but we may not understand what's happening. Now, he's lived in Ajijic all his life, and when he was younger, as a teenager, he recognized that some of the stories of his grandparents, etc., were going to be lost. You know? So he wrote them all down. And one day he's going to transcribe them into something. But he wrote them all down, and he decided he was going to preserve the traditions and the customs of Ajijic. And his research and love for Ajijic led him to be appointed Cronista of Ajijic. So the Cronista is someone who has demonstrated a love for the customs and the traditions, and he's sort of charged with maintaining them, reviving them. He's revived a lot. He's involved in just about every tradition here, and there are many once lost traditions that we enjoy today because of Lalo. So I'd like to introduce Lalo, Eduardo. So, just un breve, tu nombre, tu...
Buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es Eduardo Ramos Cordero, my nickname, Lalo. Y es un placer estar aquí con ustedes, porque es un placer servir.
Okay. Gracias, Lalo. Now you can relax. Chill question time. So, Lalo doesn't speak very good English, so all your questions will have to be in Spanish. We'll get someone better than me to translate. So this really is about traditions of Ajijic. Now, not all the traditions are of Ajijic, but some of them may be obscure, or we can't really tell what's going on. So we're including those too. Or they have a particular Ajijic twist to them. And I'll be talking this morning about traditions that are part of the calendar year and a part of the year in the villagers' lives. And many of the traditions are visible to all. Right? We all know the ones that happen in the plaza, or the Regata de Globos, the balloons, and the Fiestas Patrias, the Independence Day, the Fiestas Patronales in November, Day of the Revolution, Day of the Dead, Passion Play, thanks to Lalo, and a lot of religious festivals, because you can see them, they're in front of us, they're usually parades in the street. Valle Folklorico and Carnaval, Shrove Tuesday, they're all visible. But there are a few things either happening in those parades, or sometimes they're just a little hidden from us. We're not quite sure what's going on. And you may have noticed in the parades the presence of the sayacas. Everyone seen the sayacas? Now they are unique to Ajijic. Yeah, even San Antonio can't claim them. It's unique to Ajijic. They're easily recognized, but if you go to number 2, you'll see a male and female sayaca. They're easily recognizable, men dressed in simple peasant clothes, wearing a mask usually carved out of wood, with loose hair, maybe straw hair. And women, men often in drag, with exaggerated painted makeup, inflated balloons underneath the dress, enhance the bust and the butt. And they're usually in front of the parade. And they toss flour at the spectators. And it's tradition that the youth in the village run ahead of them. And they try to escape, but everyone really wants to be caught. And once caught, they'll be tossed to the ground, surrounded by the sayacas, and they'll be doused head to foot in flour. And that becomes their sort of ghostly white badge of honor. Anyone been covered in flour? Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's just wonderful. Now, there's a lot of legends about where they come from. There are many, many legends. But one of the most popular, and I think this is one that Lalo told me about, was that they were twins of an Ajijic shaman. And they lived in, I believe it was in Tomatlan, which is now La Canacinta, over to the west, beyond Six Corners. For some reason, they salivated a lot. So they were given the indigenous Nahuatl name, Xayacatl, which means mouth that produces water. Now their parents died shortly after they were born, and they were raised by nannies. And as they grew, they used to collect petals from marigolds, and they used to use toasted dried corn, which they used to ground up. And they would fill hollowed out turkey eggs, which they used to like to throw at one another. And you've seen the confetti eggs in town, right? So that's the root of the confetti eggs. Now, as the children grew up, the woman the girl sayaka used to chase the boys, and they ran away, and she didn't like it. So she was so annoyed that she used to throw ground corn at them. And that's the current tradition of throwing the confetti. The male sayaka was a bit more innocent, and liked to play with marigold petals by throwing them over people's heads. And this is a tradition that maybe if they don't throw flour over you, they'll sprinkle something, some confetti on your head. Now the sayakas were much loved in the village, and were always involved in the most important festivals. They were a little mischievous. They placed marigolds and toasted corn as an offering to nature to ward off hail and hope for a good harvest. According to legend, they died shortly after the arrival of the Spaniards, but the tradition is obviously still alive. And I think the sayakas are probably the most emblematic or most iconic part of Ajijic. Now, the third picture, I just love this picture. This is a picture of the sayakas in the lienzo charro. And let me share my pictures with you. This drop. Dane has captured a lot of these traditions. He's at everyone. Everyone loves him. He has a website, danestrom.com or something. His photos are great. And I just love this photo of the sayakas all together. Let's see whether I can find that. So visit his website, you can see fantastic photos. He's a really nice guy. They call him, the Mexicans call him Shaggy, because he looks like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. He's a young, very skinny lad with shaggy hair, so. But he's well loved. Now, Sayakas are unique to Ajijic, right? So, but what is Ajijic? I just mentioned Tomatlan, which has now disappeared. But coming east, there was Tecoluta. Tecoluta is the Six Corners area, really from Six Corners down to the lake originally. And then coming further east, we had Ajijica. And the Spanish built ministerial headquarters in the center of the village. And that is what is now the San Andres Church, the big temple. And they surrounded this with five neighborhoods or barrios, primarily for protection. Now the indigenous peoples used to live in the barrios, and the Spaniards lived in the middle. And the Spaniards gave them all saint names. Each barrio got a saint name. So right now we're in the barrio of San Gaspar, which is bound by Revolution, Pichanga Street, Colon, or Morelos, the lake, and Guadalupe Victoria is San Gaspar. Do you know which neighborhood you live in? If you go to the next one, number 4, you can see a map. Santiago is from Colon, the lake, or San Gaspar. Santiago is Hidalgo, run east-west, Colon, Obregon, which is Six Corners, and the lake. Santa de Guadalupe, Six Corners to the west, right? And that is more known as, well, it says, equally well known as just Tecoluta. It still maintains its Nahuatl name. San Sebastian, which is Guadalupe Victoria North, Revolution, Colon, and right up to the hills. And San Miguel, last one, is in Obregon, Six Corners, Colon, the hills, and to the west. So most neighborhoods have their holy days. They all used to have their holy days. A couple still do. And this year San Gaspar had we revived our holy day. So San Gaspar, for the first time in I don't know how long, had their festival. So it was shortly after Christmas. It was in January, because I remember we had to steal the statue of San Gaspar from the bandstand in the plaza to run to the street to put him on so we could decorate it. But this was all done by the people of the barrio. They just decided we're going to revive this, and everyone in the neighborhood was invited. We had pozole and else. It's fantastic. There was music, folklorico, and everyone in the other barrios were invited as well. Now, number 5. This is one of the more. This has been going on for about 5 years now, because the barrio of San Miguel has a festival day. It was in its 5th year before the pandemic broke out, but it was revived this year. Now, does everyone know where Tempisque is? Yeah, Tempisque is over behind Sky Gym, I would say. You know where that's, Serenade? Oh, yeah, it's up there. And there's a big telephone tower, antenna on it. There's a cave there, a beautifully adorned cave. It's got a steel door, fortunately, and it's quite adorned inside. And that's where they keep the statue of San Miguel. So they have a parade, but they go down to Six Corners and back. And then in that little area, they have a party until the early hours, and rockets will be fired. The next one is number 6. That's the San Sebastian Festival. That takes place on January the 20th. And that's a procession. You might see that one, because that comes down to the San Andres Temple, and then back up. And that's held in the streets. So that's north of the Carretera, but you missed it. It was January 20th. But it's very lively, very lively. And that was revived about 30 years ago. So you can see how these traditions keep on being revived. It's great. And it's the neighborhoods themselves. That's the amazing thing. One of the breads that are used by in the parties of the Dia de la Cruz is Tachihual. Anyone tried Tachihual? No. Oh, we got one in the back. You like it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's good. It's a bread, although it's not exclusive to Ajijic, it occupies a prominent place in the festivities. It's a sweet bread, and Tachihual, I believe, means handmade. And although it's made through the region, the Ajijic's version is one of the most celebrated recipes, and it's been a closely guarded secret, been in the Martinez Velasquez family for generations, and it's still prepared the same today as it was 100 years ago. The bread is made daily, and you can go and see it. You can go to the bakery, you can walk in and see it being made in the ovens. It's the small bakery is called Pan Tachihual de Rafaela. It's located in Emiliano Zapata, which is parallel to the Carretera, behind, sort of in central Ajijic. And 11A is the number. It's a little unassuming little door. Knock on it, someone there, you'll go past various bags of flour and everything. And I say it's very popular in Dia de la Cruz. Another dish that is, again, it's not unique to Ajijic. In fact, it's not really unique to Mexico. It came from Spain, from the Moorish end of Spain. It's Capirotada. Anyone tried Capirotada? Yeah. This again, it's not unique to Ajijic, but the Feria de Capirotada is the only fair in the world devoted to the bread. And it used to be on the Malecon. They tried it once in the plaza, and I heard this year it was over by the cultural centre, by the football field. So I'm a little confused about where it is right now. But women bring their recipes to be tasted in this competition. There are prizes. This was revived by a gentleman called Lee Hopper. Lee Hopper is a big friend of Ajijic. He's obviously, with a name like Lee Hopper, he wasn't originally from Ajijic. But he arrived here when he was 6 years old, and he has revived traditions. So there's opportunities for us all. Now there's various preparations of the dish. It's generally composed of a toasted bolillo, and a bolillo is a white bread. Sometimes the Mexicans call us that. It's a bit like a French baguette, and it's soaked in a malt syrup with the following: cane sugar or piloncillo, cloves, cinnamon sticks. Some of the typical ingredients may be nuts, seeds, dried, sometimes fresh fruits, and apples, dates, raisins, apricots, peanuts, you name it. It's delicious. And so you can go down and you get a little entrance fee, a few pesos to try all the capirotadas. And it's been infused with a sort of religious, the church got in on the act. And it's been recorded by the Holy Office of the Inquisition and kept to this day in the archives. So the ingredients carry the symbolism of Christ, his suffering on Good Friday. The bread represents the body of Christ, the syrup is blood, the cloves are the nails in the cross, and the whole cinnamon sticks are the wood of the cross. And then you have melted cheese on top, which signifies the Holy Shroud. Anyone hungry? Well, let's go to the lives of the Ajijictecas. Ajijictecas. Tecos. Sorry. So that's what we all are, right? Honorary or otherwise. Now, pregnancy. Pregnancy in Mexico. And any rituals associated with that? Well, it's changing. More and more women are recognizing that the benefits or the reduced risk of something happening with good prenatal care. However, childbirth, and rightly so, is still considered a natural state that needs no medical intervention. So you'll get a lot of well-meaning grandmas giving their homemade teas and herbal preparations And that's considered the only prenatal care necessary. Now, the biggest ritual that has survived is that of postpartum care. Now, after the baby is born, there is a 40-day postpartum period of rest, where women are supposed to avoid bathing, 40 days, bathing, intimacy, well, it goes along with the not bathing, yes, and remain in some way secluded. Family relatives, especially the female ones, are supposed to help with the cleaning, the cooking, looking after the kids, and she gets as much rest as she needs. And that's the idea of the 40-day rest period after giving birth. And but more midwives now are encouraging women to return to normal activity a lot sooner. Now, not observing the quarantine in the past was thought to lead to illness, infertility, infection, and even death. And it was also meant for the newborns too. They thought the newborns were very susceptible, very vulnerable. And in the Mexican culture, newborns are very highly revered. And there are very few public ceremonies honoring the baby in this time. I was told about this by someone, and someone else told me this doesn't happen anymore. But they used to put a gold coin on the umbilical stump and then wrap it in a sort of red bandage. And that would ward off evil spirits, because they thought the belly button was an entrance point for evil spirits. But I've heard that that rarely happens anymore, maybe because of the infections. But, and it's significant. It's red. There's a lot of red surrounding newborns because they do believe that wards off evil spirits. In Mexican culture, it's believed in order to keep an infant pure of heart and in turn healthy, they must never experience distress. So for this reason, Mexican babies, infants, spend most of their time being held by family members to prevent them from crying or experience any distress. And from what I've seen, I mean, the baby's feet doesn't touch the ground until it's about 18 months. It's just passed from cousin to aunt to grandmother. And you may see, if you go to, that was number 9, but it was a generic photo of a pregnancy. Number 10, if you advance to number 10, you'll see a picture of a baby's wrist with a red bracelet and a stone that looks like an eye. And that is, you may come across one in the streets. It's always a red bracelet, and there's usually a stone there. And this is to protect the baby from the mal de ojo, the evil eye. Parents believe that the baby is susceptible to the evil eye, and if they get a look from someone who does not wish him well, perhaps someone who is jealous of his success, may even a comment disguised as a compliment, they may be sending the evil eye to the baby. Sometimes parents don't know if that person is looking negatively, so the bracelet is an important shield. Now, it's believed that the evil eye transmits from the eyes, it's carried through the ear and into the baby, and the baby will show symptoms like crying, but sudden fever, vomiting, diarrhea, insomnia. They believe that the baby may have contracted the evil eye, and there's some ritual where you put a raw egg under the pillow, and it is hard-boiled the next morning. Sure enough, the baby had the evil eye. So you have to be aware of exuberant praise for babies in the street, for Mexican babies, because they may misinterpret that as the evil eye. Now, as the kids get bigger, we have their biggest event of their year is the birthday party. Now, these used to be regularly held in the street, and you can still see them in the street. I see them in my neighborhood. But more and more parties are going to these event spaces, like the Arcoiris behind Plaza Bugamillas over there, or Terraza de la Tia in north of the Carretera behind Pemex. So these places are rented because families are big. Everyone's invited, so there's not enough space in the house. But some traditions are still held in the street. And no one has a problem with blocking streets off. Have you noticed that? We're having an event, we'll block a street off. Now, piñatas, everyone's Everyone's seen a piñata, obviously, yeah? Has anyone tried to hit one? Yeah? Good for you. Because it's easy to take those sticks off those little kids, isn't it? I mean, they're not going to fight back. So there's and any kid passing, will sort of line up and try and get a whack at the piñata, which is I think it's number 11 we're on. So, doesn't really show much, but and everyone will try and get the piñata. And some are rope hanging, and someone will pull it to make it more difficult. And there's one song you should learn. If you're ever passing this, you can learn the piñata song. Dale, 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 no pierdes el tino. Right? Oh, you want to sing? No, porque puedes el camino. Ya le dice dos. Ya le dice tres. Y tu tiempo se acabó. This song is used to time the kids with the stick. And everyone joins in. You can find this song on the internet, learn it, it's fun. Then you can be a part of it. Another birthday song is Las Mañanitas. So they don't sing happy birthday to you, they sing Las Mañanitas. It's the equivalent to a happy birthday. It's sung at every birthday party. And that's another good one to learn. Just the first verse. There's some that go on forever, but first verse you're okay. Now, another variation of singing happy birthday is the phonetic repetition of happy birthday to you said in a Mexican accent. Happy birthday to you. Which they translate to sapo verde eres tú. Which means you're a green toad. But it's very few speak English, the joke sort of thing. But yeah. Now number 12. Oh, number 12, okay. After singing the Las Mañanitas, the ritual of the Mordida. The Mordida is where everyone chants after singing Las Mañanitas, Mordida, Mordida. The birthday boy or girl has to stand with their hands behind the back and take a bite of the cake. And when that happens, someone pushes their face into the cake. The first time it happened to me, I thought this was an act of, what's happening? So they end up with a face full of cake and icing, and everybody has a good time, everybody laughs. And there's everyone knows it's coming, so there are elaborate feints, and they're trying to, it doesn't work. They always get their face in the cake. Number 13 is the Quinceañera. Has anyone seen a Quinceañera? Anyone been to one? Yeah, remember you had the car, didn't you, to bring the Quinceañera to the party, yeah. And this is like the coming out celebration. It's the girl's 15th birthday, marking the passage from girl to woman. So if you're outside a church and you see a lot of young people dressed very formally, it's a very formal occasion. It may not be a marriage. I mean, they're only 14. You have to wait a couple of years for that. So they have a mass where the priest tells the young girl that becoming a woman is a big responsibility, and that she should remain virginal. Hopefully not too late. Afterwards there is a big party and there's more rituals, changing from a girl to a woman. The last doll, the ultima muñeca. So she's given a doll and she hands it off either to a sister or to someone younger than her to signify, I'm a woman, I don't have toys anymore. Also there's a symbolic dance where she arrives in flat shoes and her father brings out heels. So she puts on the heels, and they look at me, I'm completely lost. And that signifies that she entered the party as a girl, but is leaving as a woman. And we'll go to number 14. How are we doing? Weddings. How do you know you're at a Mexican wedding? Well, no one has invitations. There's only maps, right? Everyone's invited. So 12 people arrive for every invitation. No one goes to the wedding, but everyone goes to the reception. And the children of the bride are usually the flower girls and the ring bearer. Now, Mexican weddings were usually held on the street. For the same reason, it was, you know, a big open space, but it rarely happens these days. Event spaces have taken that. You know Flavio, the guy who pushes the ice cream cart? Yes! He yells. That was the last one I went to. His wedding was held on the street. It was over in 6 corners. And the street was just full. It was just, that was wonderful. And Flavio speaks English, so go and introduce yourself to him. Ask him about his wedding. He loves talking about it. It's great. And buy an ice cream while you're there. But weddings these days tend to be very elaborate now, very expensive. So the costs are shared usually with the godparents, padrinos, or everyone has a role. Sorry, we're on number 14, which is a generic photo also. So there's various ceremonies in the wedding. The bride and groom are joined by what's called a Lazo de Boda. And it's like a figure 8, and they put it on their shoulders. And so one of them can't run away, I guess, I don't know. No, but it symbolizes the bounds of love and trust that unite them. And so it's placed on their shoulders like necklaces. And some may be silk. This one here, I think, is a red, like, little balls on a string. It's like body cuffs, you know. Once you're in, that's it. Now, back at the reception. Back at the reception, there's many more traditions. Who's been to a wedding, a Mexican wedding? Did you understand everything that was going on? No. First of all, we have the money dance. The money dance is a tradition that where male guests pay to dance with the bride and female guests pay to dance with the groom. We're now on number 16, and you can see the groom there. You're given a pin, then you take out a bill, hopefully of a nice large denomination. You pin it to their shirt or dress, and then you get to dance with them for 30 seconds. We'll be taking questions later, Angel, okay?
It's about the wedding. How long does it take the process to get a wedding?
Can we hold the questions till later? I promise I'll come back to you. Promise. So the person is covered in money, and the longer it lasts, the more money they get. And the money is expected to be used by the newlyweds for their honeymoon or to establish their home. Then on number 17, there's a very famous dance called Víbora de la Mar, the sea snake dance. And it's a Mexican wedding tradition where the groom and the bride stand on chairs facing one another, and they make an arc with their arms, and everyone joins hands and passes underneath. And it starts getting faster and faster, and the tequila is kicking in. so there's calamities afoot as they go around the entire hall, through the bathrooms, wherever. So that's another tradition. Number 18, often they'll toss the groom. They'll toss him in the air. And sometimes they'll take off his shoes, stick money in them. A lot of this is just to, gift money to the... So I was at a party the other week, and someone said, I was talking about this. I said, yeah, sometimes they pour wine into the shoes and drink it. And fortunately, I've never seen that. On number 19, one of the most famous dances is El Baile de Mandilon. Now, mandil is a pinafore, or an apron, you use in the kitchen. And a mandilon is to describe a man who wears the apron in the kitchen. In other words, a henpecked husband. So he doesn't wear the trousers, he wears the apron. So in this dance, the traditional gender roles are changed. And the bride wears cowboy boots, a cowboy hat, always has a can of beer in her hand, sorry, and will have a belt. The groom, although in this picture he's not wearing the mandil, but he brought us a baby, the closest baby, and he has to carry the baby. He has to wear the pinafore, and he has a broom. And he He dances around to a song, La Batalla, and the wife goes behind him, whacking him on the butt with the belt, much to the delight of everyone except the groom. And this fun ritual symbolizes the end of the groom's single life and demonstrates his willingness to obey the future wife. Coming up next week, we have a great presentation on Mother's Day. I know the presenter is here today. Mother's Day isn't celebrated on Sundays, it's on a fixed day, on the 10th, I believe, right? And not unsurprisingly, the reverence given to the mothers is one of the biggest celebrations of the year. It's customary to hire a band to serenade your mother outside the streets. Now, there are so many mothers to be serenaded and so few bands that a lot of the bands have to start around about 2 in the morning. I've been woken up at 4, I get up, listen to it, go back to bed. But you'll find them in the streets, playing a couple of songs and then moving on to the next mother's house. And also, this year, in fact I'm going to ask Lalo about this, in the Lienzo Charo, I think it's on the following Sunday, I hope it's going to happen this year, there's a celebration for mothers. Now don't miss this, this is great. This is the next one. Oh, it was yesterday! Oh, damn. Number 20, did you go? Oh, this is one of my favourites. Number 20, you'll see Mother's Day. It's a very sweet tradition. There's a lot of competition. All the mothers arrive. There's a few competitions. Most of them involved down in alcohol. Some relay races spinning round. It's just a lot of fun. But the highlight of the event is they have small balls with small gifts attached to the horns or the ankles. There may be lipstick, makeup, something like that, some jewellery. And the mothers come out with their shower curtains and bath towels and curtains, and they're supposed to, play the part of the bullfighter, and the bull looks at them like, what am I doing here? So occasionally they'll have a little, the bull will charge just to play his part. But when I've been there, it usually ends up with the women, with the mothers chasing the ball. They catch the ball, bring it down, they get the prizes. So don't miss it next year. That's a shame. And finally we come on to the funerals. I had a friend I'd been in Ajijic, someone who hadn't been in Ajijic very long, was complaining to me about the big shades, the toldos, the canopies over the street. The street was closed. How are they allowed to, even the buses have to go around, why do you have to have the parties in the street? So when I told him this was for a funeral, I never heard anything else. So it is a very honoured tradition that you put that toldo up, you put the chairs out. I'm sure you've all seen it in the street. And buses will go around, everyone will go around, everyone honors the funeral. So we're on number 21 now. In fact, moving on to 22. If the deceased dies in hospital, they'll bring them back to the house. Usually in the family car. Yeah. And it's always placed, the body is always placed in a front room or a garage. It's open. And there are rows of chairs for everyone who knew the deceased to come along, pay their respects to the family, and it's a gathering point. The family serves food and drinks, and there's prayers or being said, and they quite often hire someone because they say them over a 24-hour period. So friends and relatives come and go in the first 24 hours. If a friend of yours on the street, someone passes away, please visit them, and sit with them, and talk to the family, and discreetly give them money to offset the cost of. Funerals are expensive. Oops, they cut me off. I know my time's up, but we don't care, do we?
We don't care.
2 minutes. Now this ceremony it lasts 24 hours, called velorio, and candles play a big part. The Spanish for candle is vela. candles burn each end of the coffin. The coffin is usually open, but with a covering. So you'll see, usually it's like a window, a glass window. And so everyone goes in, it's expected that you will go and spend time with the deceased. Usually Mass is held the following day, and the ritual is that they will then go to the Pantheon by walking through the streets. And there may be a band playing. Usually you'll see the hearse, the mourners, the band, and anything that the person was involved in. To a funeral of a friend of mine who was a soccer trainer. All the kids were in their soccer uniform following the coffin. They get the Pantheon, and there's a little entrance, there's a little chapel there, sort of chapel, and another hour's worth of prayers. And then they go to I need it for alright, okay. So then, after that, the coffin is taken to the graveside, and it's usually when the coffin's being lowered into the ground that the family lose it, and there's a lot of grieving, and they don't hold back, and neither should they. So, and sometimes after that there's a novenario? Novenario. So 9 consecutive days of prayers for the deceased, helps them get to the final resting place. So there you have it.
Thank you,
The
Phil.
cycles of the year and life in the community.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Phil. We have to move on.
We do?
I need this.
But I just want to, I will say this, because I wanted to thank Lalo here. That, so the cycles of the year and the life of the community continue these traditions, and it's thanks to Lalo. Now we will have time for questions, and Angel, I do see you.
Yeah.
I'll come back there. If
Okay.
you use that microphone.
Okay.
I'll use this
Now
one.
Lalo doesn't speak English, so Melody's going to translate for us.
Sure. Okay, right now I'll go back there. You set him up with his mic. Very good. Everybody, a warm thank you to Lalo and Phil.
Okay. My name is Sergio Carrera. I'm also Mexican. Okay. There's so many traditions, but I would like the person, I don't remember his name,
Lalo?
Lalo,
Lalo.
to give an explanation, because in the United States, you can go and get married on a drive-thru. In here, how long does it take to get married? I believe it takes several weeks. The couples had to go and attend classes. Is that true?
You have to go to what?
The couple has to go to church and take classes
Well,
about marriage.
if you want to get married in the church, that's true. But you can get a civil ceremony where you are married. So,
No,
I think it varies. La pregunta es que, ¿cuánto tiempo dura una pareja
Para casarse, ¿cuánto tiempo se lleva la preparación para la ceremonia del matrimonio?
¿Van a pláticas prematrimoniales? ¿Van a pláticas prematrimoniales?
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
Más o menos un mes, pero ahorita los están alargando más.
Can you translate that?
So it's 1 month.
Like
1
a
month for the preparation.
Okay.
Maybe more.
One of the biggest traditions here in all of the country, but one in Christmas time, that is the ponches. Is the Christmas drink. And it's delicious. It's only mainly on Christmas time, and it's sold here in the plaza. Ladies with big pot. It has so many ingredients. It is delicious. I recommend you. In regards to funerals, we did
One question, Angel.
Okay.
There's lots of others. Thank you. But I didn't mention, I specifically didn't mention the Christmas one. I think it's more visible to everyone.
Ponche, yeah.
Ponches, yeah.
Nobody knows what it's
They don't?
What it's about.
Oh,
I have another question over
tastes
here.
delicious, that's all I know.
Short question, can you explain Have Lalo explain what a kermesse is.
Okay, oh, good question. Did everyone go to the kermesse last week?
Yes.
It was a big success. He organized it.
Wow.
Yeah, big success. So, ¿quieres saber más que un kermesse? Una kermesse.
Verbena Jamaica.
No, el kermesse de semana pasada.
Son unas kermeses que se hacen donde se venden todo tipo de antojitos mexicanos, bebidas y postres, dessert. Y todo lo recauda. Las familias de los enfermos es un requisito que tienen que ir casa por casa pidiendo materia culinaria de lo que van a vender para comer. Por ejemplo, si una familia de un enfermo va a vender sopes, entonces tiene que ir a las casas, tocar la puerta y decir: ¿me regalas sopes? ¿Me regalas carne? ¿Me regalas chiles? ¿Me regalas jitomates? Todo. Porque cuando ellos van a vender aquí al malecón, no tienen que gastar nada. Todo tienen que regalárselos en las casas del pueblo, las familias. Entonces, los organizadores les tienen que decir que ese es un requisito indispensable para que todo lo que venden es libre, es ganancia. Y entonces ellos venden más o menos como 10,000, 20,000 pesos y se ayudan mucho para solventar los gastos de las medicinas, los gastos médicos de su enfermo. Y solo Ajijic tiene esa solidaridad para cuando hay un enfermo en el pueblo se organiza y lo saca adelante. San Juan Cosalá lo hace muy bien también. Entonces ellos ya están siguiendo las organizaciones que hace Ajijic y hacen lo mismo. San Antonio un poco. Y pero Ajijic casi siempre es el pionero en todo, el primero en todo. Dicen Ajijic es el que inspira a los demás pueblos y eso es muy bueno.
So kermesse is an event to help pay for medical expenses, medicines, for families that have a sick member. And they're saying that the tradition is that when you are involved in a kermesse, you go from door to door and you ask for the ingredients and the cooking utensils for what you need to sell the food, because they don't want the people to have to buy anything, the food, anything. Everything's given by the neighbors. They then prepare it and sell it at a kermesse, and all the money goes to costs. All money goes to medical costs and medicines. And Ajijic is known for its solidarity with kermesse. And anytime you get a chance to go to one, please do. The food is delicious, and it's for an excellent cause. There are also some other community members that also give their time. For example, last week the hairdressers and the barbers were giving their time. You could have a haircut, and it was a donation. There was entertainment music. It was a very community experience. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's all the questions that we have time for today. We want to thank...
Is that all the time?
That's all the time we have for questions today.
So is it? I'm gonna pop right there. Can I? Lalo's come a long way. Can we? Do you want more time? You don't have to. I'll take over the point if you like.
So if you want to take more questions, I'm willing to go.
Yeah.
Who wants to ask?
Anyone have any other questions? Maybe. Oh.
Wait a second.
When they're having when there's a funeral,
Should we not go down that road at all if that's, I've walked behind the
the chairs, but I don't know if that's.
Oh, okay. ¿Qué deberíamos hacer cuando pasamos en la calle? Sí, en la calle. Sí.
Solamente detenerse y mostrar respeto.
So just, yeah. So, and you'll see a lot of people will cross themselves. I do it, I'm an atheist, so.
Anybody else?
Go on.
I'm curious what it takes to revive a tradition that's been gone from the village for a while.
¿Qué tienes que hacer para revivir una tradición?
Solamente ponerse en contacto con personas claves del pueblo que saben, que conocen las tradiciones y platicar, conversar y juntos la pueden rescatar.
So there are sort of key people in the village who maintain a great interest in these traditions. And, you know, you just have to mention it. Usually they'll form a committee, an ad hoc committee, and it happens. It just happens, you know.
Yo quiero dar las gracias a canadienses, estadounidenses, a toda la colonia extranjera, porque también ustedes apoyan mucho las kermeses para ayudar a los enfermos.
But you also thank the Americans and the Canadians for helping out for supporting the kermesses, and it makes a big difference. Our presence makes a big difference, and it helps to unite us all.
Y quiero hablar un poquito sobre la tradición de la sayaca, nada más, porque la tradición de la sayaca que hoy vemos no es la antigua. Cuando yo fui un niño, ahora tengo 72 años, cuando yo fui niño, la tradición era viernes, sábado, domingo y lunes. Había toros, había harina, pero el martes de carnaval nunca, never, no había harina. Era muy bonito y los sayacos eran dos, nada más. El viejo sayaco y la vieja sayaca. Ahora la tradición se ha degenerado mucho porque ahora hay mucha harina, pero antiguamente la verdadera tradición no tenía harina el martes de carnaval, tenía mucho confeti y serpentinas de papel nunca había harina el martes de carnaval. Ahora hay mucha, pero es que la tradición ha degenerado mucho.
So I say when it was younger, the sayacas, there was only two of them. They followed the parade, and they didn't toss flour. There was a lot of confetti and streamers. What else did I say? Oh yeah, the streamers, yeah. Throw in the streamers. There's only two of them, but it has sort of become a new tradition. The kids love it. And what are you going to do?